Hello everyone. We have came back once again for the glory of streaming. This incredible technological advancement of the modern age. Today we will spend some time with a game that has been around for a bit less than Call of Cthulhu that we have read, but that has put a very significant mark on the history of role playing games, and a game that takes some effort to comprehend as a whole. We will go over every funny moment that we will see during this stream and future ones, but before that, let me say that this one will be a bit different than the last stream we did, mostly because this one is completed, which means that the original creator, which is Mors Ratus, um, actually committed to the bit and described everything that they wanted. And from what I can say from the original text, we very might well we may go through the whole history of 7th Sea as a role-playing game with all of its supplement books, and there is a lot of them. The text itself has over 200 chapters, which, well, may be of different length, but we need to keep in mind that it still is a lot. And from a quick view that I did, I can pretty much say that yes, many books will be described. Hopefully, that means that maybe we will just go through the motions of the funny bits instead of the concrete mechanics, which to my liking are not. Um, but other than that, I think this will be something that we will all remember 4 times. This is also the second stream in a list of 4s, because to keep every title in my head, and also as a tool for preparation, I keep a list of 4 titles so that I know what will come next, and these are categorized by what I want to read, what I dedicate to specific people, a random choice, and a choice of the public, which is you. And this time we are reading something that has been dedicated, and this one in particular is dedicated to our, as the time of recording, national coordinator for Finland, and that is Petra. Say everyone, please say hello to Petra. Do some shoutouts in the comments, in the live chats, and whatever, because we will spend some time on this game. And why have I chosen this particular game to dedicate it to Petra? Well, if you know Petra, you may know. If you don't know, now is the day when you will learn. Is that Petra is writing, drawing, and doing a lot of stuff with a particular webcomic. That comic is known as Tiger, Tiger, and it is a comic book about pirates. And 7th Sea is, well, technically one of the most well-known game about pirates. So 1 + 1 = 3, because there is always another one behind. And in this case, that invisible one is the motive. But now you know. So, without further ado, as I believe we have went over the time when YouTube would actually uh, seek out words that are not very welcomed, I believe we can start. I tried learning the language, but it tasted like noodles every time I said anything. I hate noodles. Posted by Morstratus. By my count, that's 8 for 7th C to 4 for Gypsy. So let's take a look at 7th C. Produced by AEG in 1999, 7th Sea took the system they built for Legend of the Five Rings and tried to warp it to fit a very romanticized swashbuckling Renaissance feel. It also had a completely insane backstory that was only hinted at early on, like Pinnacle and Deadlands. There was a metaplot that went on through the time and required you to buy a number of books to get the full backstory of what was going on and who the major villains of the city were. Unlike Pinnacle, though, it was fairly easy for a GM to just run the parts that were cool and ignore the metaplot because it was far less of a thing. Sort of. We'll be looking at the books in order of publication, much as we would if we bought them as they came out. We'll start with the 7th Sea Player Guide. And yes, before we will continue down the path, we get some interesting information in the introduction. Mainly, we are introduced to AEG, which is a publisher of role-playing games that existed, I believe, in most of the 90s and probably in a part of early 2000s, but to my knowledge is not first of all very much active, second of all may have been closed because people involved in it just changed their career's direction and just walked away. Second of all, we have the mention of the system that was built for Legend of the Five Rings that we will go around at some point, I am sure. Which is important because I would say that the system used for both 7th Sea and Legend of the Five Rings is rather important to also the development of role-playing games, but also mostly because it never really got canonized in the books of mechanics, and it is very hard to actually find any documents that would describe how to build a game using that mechanic, which only makes it easier for stealing because we are pirates. Third thing, we also have a mention of games like Pinnacle and Deadlands. I have to say I am not very familiar with Pinnacle, but I am more familiar with Deadlands, which is also a game on the list and also a game that is extremely interesting. And a mention of a metaplot. And the metaplot is a term that is very familiar to me as I have built most of my academic background around the term. But in a short description, metaplot is the backstory that is leading the events of the piece of text. In this example, it is a role-playing game that can lead to certain events. Let's say in a game focused on the Crusades, the metaplot would be, well, different Crusades, and the plot of the game centered around the Crusades would be just the adventures of the Crusaders and what they have been doing in between those different Crusades and the events that have led to different Crusades. I would say that the metaplot is something that has been extremely popular in the 90s, as a lot of games really had a prominent metaplot in them. and it is something that has mostly disappeared in the modern games, because while we still obviously have games with metaplot, they are usually just something that remained from 90s and early 2000s. Um, I also think that metaplot is something that can be both very encouraging for people to get into a game, because they just might have heard about a cool event and they just want to check out the world of the game, but at the same time it can lead to problems with playing in that setting, because some people may be just so stuck up on certain things happening for the sake of the metaplot. So it is as always in the fact that people need to talk about their expectations. But enough of that. Let us go into the first book, that is the Player's Guide. While the art isn't perfect, it very much captures the feel of the game it's going for. The art direction in general is pretty good for this book. It begins by introducing us to three viewpoint characters: the villainous Villanova of Vodace and his priestly companion Bernardo, the pirate fencer O'Connell, an Irishman of Avalon, and Helena, a daring woman of Vendel. You will learn what those names mean shortly. 7th Sea, in its own words, focuses on swashbuckling and sorcery, diplomacy and intrigue, and archaeology and exploration. One-liners and swordsmanship are very important, as is the noble blood of sorcery, the dark power that runs in the veins of the noble families of the world. Pirates and other freedom-seeking adventurers troll the waters and trek across the lands, exploring the unknown and seeking treasures, as the nations sit on the verge of going beyond kingdoms and becoming countries. Royalty and nobility try to resolve disputes in the face of rising nationalism and espionage. And meanwhile, there are the Cyrinth ruins, which have no real-world analog, so let me quote as at you. Excerpt from the book. Beyond the kingdoms of Thea lie the ruins of an ancient civilization lost centuries ago, hidden beneath thousands of years and dust and the waves and vast cities of lost Cyrinth. Who knows what ancient treasures remain unseen by human eyes, untouched by human hands? Men and women who call themselves archaeologists are hired by the kings and queens of Thea to unearth these treasures and bring them back to noble hands. Daring the perilous ancient ruins, these men and women are all the rage in the noble court and the subjects of romantic novels all across the land. Praised as heroes, they hope to discover the secrets of the Cyrinth in hope that they may uncover the key to man's own origins and possibly the secrets of the universe itself. Now, there's some things we will cover as basics before the book dives into the world, just as primer really. Thea is not the world, it is the continent. It intentionally resembles 17th century Europe, however it has magic. Each nation has its own magic, say for Castile and Aizen. Magic is bloodline based generally and can be very dangerous. The religion of most of the continent is the Vaticine Church, the Church of Prophets, which resembles Catholicism. However, the Vaticine embraced science for the most part, far more than the Vatican did, until very recently almost all scientific breakthroughs have been the direct result of priests researching or funding research. The Church has found many universities to teach science. However, it has just emerged from the 30-year War of the Cross against the Objectionism, Protestants, which has left chaos across much of the world, especially the nations of Aizen, and in the wake of the war, a sinister inquisition threatens to take over. There are 6 known seas and the mythical 7th Sea, where the world is strange and backwards. No one's ever proven it exists. And the Cyrinth. The Cyrinth ruins exist beneath the earth on long island chains in the Western Sea and in other remote locations. They were built by an inhuman race called the Cerne, of whom little is known. What is known is that the ruins have produced much wealth in the form of puzzling scientific marvels that have yet to be reproduced. The nations of Thea are Avalon, the enchanted land of three united kingdoms, it's Britain; Castile, headquarters of the Vatisin, which has recently been attacked by the nation of Montaigne; Castile is Spain; Aizen, a once proud empire now struggling to recover from the disastrous War of the Cross, it's Germany; Montaigne, the most powerful nation in the world, led by a vicious emperor but also home to the great arts, it's France; Usura, the wild land of the north and traditional land with great vastness, it's Russia; the archipelago of Vendel and Western Manjevnir, where the wealthy guild raiders struggle with the traditionalist raiders who refuse to give up their heritage for money. It's, well, the Netherlands. And of course, there is Vodace, once the cradle of civilization and now split by merchant princes. It's Italy. There is also the Empire of the Crescent Moon, Arabia, and Katai, China, but those are separated from the rest of the world by culture and by physical barriers. There may be other continents, but no one's been there. There is also a number of secret and not so secret societies. For example, the Explorers Society, a gentleman's club of explorers and geographers; the Invisible College, a secretive band of academics who work to protect science from the Inquisition, which has turned against it; the Knights of the Rose and Cross, an order of adventurers who seek to bring justice and protection; the Kreuzritter, a holy order of Vatisin knights who were wiped out centuries ago by treachery, but rumors of which still circulate; Los Vagos, the followers of a mysterious masked man seeking to protect Castile's people from all threats, internal and external; the Ricerchiare, the freethinkers who promote free will and self-determination at any cost; and of course, Sophia's Daughters, a Vodace women's union seeking equality of the sexes and political power via covert means. Next time, do you care at all about the system, or shall I move on to the more in-depth looks the player guide goes into? And yes, before we will move on, we have just now explored the basics of the world building of 7th Sea, and as you have also, dear listeners, might have been exposed to, we have very interesting naming conventions for all of these different elements of the world. Most of them are most likely rooted in the languages of the nations the names are based on. And while I do possess some knowledge of the basic linguistics, I very much may be butchering most of those names, and also because they are just vowels and consonants put next to each other, so without any real pronunciation guide, they are just gibberish. But I shall do my best to read them in a way that makes sense and that may be at least a bit unified and consequential. I won't have bloodshed in my house. The stairs never came out. I won't have bloodshed in my house. The stains never come out. Okay. First, a brief system overview. You have 5 traits, which are what every other system would call attributes. They are brawn, which is strength and endurance; finesse, coordination and agility; resolve, willpower; wit, which is wits; and panache, which is specialness. You also have skill and knacks. A skill is, for example, performer. You spend points to learn the performer skill, which you then have permanently. This gives you access to its knack, such as acting, dancing, oratory, and singing. You buy ranks in this, but can only buy ranks in knacks that you have access to. You roll d10s based on a trait plus a knack and keep a certain number of them, usually your trait rating. 10s explode, as in Legend of the Five Rings. You can declare raises, voluntarily making a roll harder to get more effect. There are two kinds of attacks, normal and firearms. With normal attacks, you make your attack roll against your opponent's defense knack, which could be his footwork or parry weapon, or if he's doing something like swinging on a chandelier, his swinging knack. You have to beat 5 plus defense knack times 5. Firearms only have to beat 5. They are very dangerous but take forever to reload. You then roll your damage, generally based on brawn and your weapons, except ranged weapons which just use weapon damage, and he takes that many flesh wounds. Your foe then makes a wound check, rolling brawn against his current flesh wound total. If he succeeds, nothing changes. If he fails, he gets a dramatic wound plus another for every full 20 points he fails by, and erases all flesh wounds. Firearms deal an extra dramatic wound for every 10 points you fail your check by. You can take a number of dramatic wounds less than your resolve with no penalty, but once they are equal to or more than that, only your drama dice explode. Double your resolve and you are KO'd. This is just for PCs. NPCs work differently. More on drama dice at a later time. A dramatic specific time. Specifically, there are 3 types of NPCs. Villains work the same way as PCs, henchmen are KO'd at dramatic wounds equal to the resolve, and brutes are low tier bad guys who are easy to hit and get KO'd when hit. However, they travel in packs. You can make raises to take out more than one at a time, which makes sense. Actions in combat are based on your panache. You roll panache dice and the result tells you your initiative for each action. High panache is very good. Anyway, that's really all you need to know about the system for now. We will cover important bits as they combine, and if you want more, then go read the books. Now we move into the world info. We get introduced to more of our major plot characters. Archibald, the Avalonian swordsman, Clarice, the sinister mountain diplomat assigned to Castile who hires him to duel a man, Lucia, the Vodace witch who serves Clarice. As yet they are utterly unrelated to the pirate battle the other plot characters are involved in. We'll see more of these all characters later. We start with a timeline, divided into 2 eras. AUC, the time of the First City, and Anno Veritas, the modern era. AUC is the time of Numa, the first city which arose in the lands now Vodace. In the first city which arose in the lands now. Okay, that sentence doesn't make sense. It was a republic ruled by a noble senate and worshipped a pantheon of planet-based deities. It grew corrupt and was reborn as an empire under the first imperator, Gaius Philippus Macer, during a military coup. A group of senators used knowledge from ancient Cyrnth artifacts to become the world's first sorcerers, turning the empire into their puppet. The year 1st AV marked the arrival of the first prophet. 50 years after the birth of sorcery, a stranger appeared, speaking of a god called Deus, and speaking against the use of sorcery, claiming it to be an abomination. He claimed that intelligence and free will are man's greatest assets, and that it was their duty to use these and to encourage their use. He became a threat to the Senate and was declared a criminal. He turned himself in, the Book of the Prophet says, the night before his warrant was signed, and he was put to death after predicting 3 prophets to follow him. His cult grew in power, and 2 centuries later, the Imperator declared himself a convert and made the teaching of the Prophet the true church of the empire, seizing the Senate's power and forming the Church of the Prophet. Over the next 200 years, the empire split into the Eastern and Western empires before the whole lot collapsed and sent the land into a dark age. This ended with the coming of the second prophet in 305 AV, arriving from the land of the crescent moon. He spoke against sorcery like the first prophet, but also spoke of a need to leave the corrupt land behind them. he led his followers east on a great pilgrimage. But he and many of them were killed on the border of the Crescent Empire, leading to a series of bloody crusades. After the Crusades, a new empire is formed under the rule of a man named Corantin. Okay. The Prophet's church has splintered into hundreds of sects, and Corantin united not only the lands of Thea, but also the church. He ordered the establishment of one credo, forming the Vaticine Church in the city of Numa, to be led by a hierophant and a council of cardinals from across the empire. The church was granted unprecedented power, able to rule in all spiritual matters, even against the emperor. Corantin's empire fell after his death, but the church lived on. 3 centuries later, another man would unite much of Thea, the warlord Carloman, who conquered what would become Montaigne, Aizen, and Vodacce. He was declared High Imperator of all Thea by the church, which was not only politically powerful, but also the beacon of education and learning at the time. After his death, everything collapsed again, though Montaigne, Aizen, and Vodacce all gained national identities. Another 300 years of dark ages after that. In year 1000 AV, the third prophet arrived in Castile. Unlike his predecessors, he spoke of war and fire. He arranged for a coup to replace the sorcerous nobles of Castile with others and declared the Crescent Empire to be infidels who must be fought, starting a new crusade. Prior to this, Castile and the Crescent has been fairly good allies. The prophet declared Castile the center of the faith and led a short war against the Vaticine, which he won. While Vodacce retained control of the cardinals, the hierophant was based in Castile. He restructured the church to emphasize research, and he also founded the Inquisition. Its duty was to seek out sorcerers and kill them, and it answered only to the hierophant. This made enemies among all nobles in Thea, and sorcery became a secret for 5 centuries. In 1028, the king of Montaigne invaded the islands of Avalon, intending also to conquer its neighboring isles of Inismore and the Highlands Marches. The Cid and the Sidhe, an ancient race of strange creatures, fled Avalon and took their magic glamour with them, leaving Montaigne to rule. Eventually, they assimilated, but it left the two nations in fierce rivalry. After 200 years of crusade, they finally ended when the poor Knights of the Prophet, a major crusading order, were declared heretics. They were executed to the last man, and the border with the Crescents was closed to all but a single Vodacce merchant family who traded with them. In the meantime, culture flourished in Vodacce between the Crescent trade and the church establishments of learning. This renaissance spread through the world and also led a monk named Matthias Liber in 1517 to denounce the church, which had grown somewhat corrupt. He declared the church obsolete and that only Theos has command of the human souls, starting the Objectionist movement, which spread to almost a third of all Vaticines. The Objectionists were burned across the world until the early 1600s, when Aizen opened its borders to the Libers. Tensions remained high, especially after the War of the Cross. Aizen's former imperator has allowed the Objectionists in, but his successor was a Vaticine fanatic. He demanded the Objectionists renounce their faith, which led to open war. It destroyed Aizen over 30 years, and all nations had a hand in it. The church power was weakened, leading into the current day. More recently, Elaine of Avalon threw off all traces of Montaigne rule, becoming High Queen in 1658. She declared independence from the Vaticine Church and began a royal navy, uniting the 3 islands now called Avalon. The navy, equivalent in social rank to knights, have become notorious pirates. This led to Castile declaring war, but their great fleet was defeated badly, leading Avalon to have the most powerful fleet in Thea. The deadly White Plague returned in 1665 without warning, taking many lives before vanishing without apparent cause just a year later. Church scholars remain confused. The Barbarian, the name for the Netherlands, have slowly been growing a merchant caste, using their swift ships to carry cargo across the world instead of raiders. They call themselves Vendel now, and they have founded the guilds, taking control of many of the western lands. When Aizen splintered, they stepped to gain power, starting a merchant war with the Vodache princess. The Vendel Gilder has slowly become the common coin of Thea, much to Vodache's dismay. Most recently, the King of Montaigne openly admitted to being a sorcerer. In 1666, High Inquisitor Verdugo assembled a largely Castilian army to arrest the king for heresy, and the king refused to surrender. The army decimated Montaigne forces until the king's personal guard, the Musketeers, were all that was left. The Musketeers' firearm destroyed the enemy forces thanks to the genius of their captain, Montaigne. He became High General, and the King of Montaigne declared himself L'Empereur and invaded Castile. The Hierophant went to try and negotiate a peace, but he fell ill and died within the space of a few days during his stay. Or so the Montaigne says, claiming he died of plague and his body was burned. A lack of unanimous decision among the cardinals has prevented election of a new Hierophant for 2 years, and in the meantime an Avalonian scholar, Jeremy Cook, has denounced the church backbone science of alchemy in favor of something he calls empiricism, leading the Inquisitions to be turned against the new heresy after Cook was put to death. For the first time, scholars and the church have broken from each other. Next time, the nations of Thea. That was, first of all, the introduction into the history of the world, but at the same time, it is also pretty much the just a bit changed the history of the whole, our world from the ancient times of Rome to, well, basically the 17th century, with the empire, with the church, with all of the nations. The world building is, well, pretty much based in our reality, but just changed a bit to introduce magic, which is nice, honestly. Don't they teach you Vodachi girls anything about men? We are told, as the nations section begins, that for more information we will want the GM's guide and the forthcoming nation sourcebooks. AEG decided to go with the shell out another 30 bucks style of setting information here. Fortunately, we at least get some information this time around. We begin with the nation of Avalon, more properly the United Kingdoms of Avalon in the Glamour Isles, 3 kingdoms united together. The islands of Avalon are beautiful. The grass is greener, the sky more blue, the forest darker, and clouds more white. Everything seems larger than life there. Avalon's leading political figure is Queen Elaine, a woman so devoted to her nation that she turned down a marriage offer from a Castilian prince because she was already married to Avalon. Avalon is governed by its queen, but also a parliament of lords. To get any laws passed, both queen and parliament must agree to pass the law. Elaine's been good at making deals with them. Just across the water is the island of Inismore, whose king is the mysterious Mad Jack O'Bannon, said to be 1,000-year-old. He's appeared many times in Inish history, always exactly as he looked the last time, and always disappearing again after a while, leaving only one promise: I'll be right back. And then he walks away, not to be seen for years, perhaps a century or more. And the northern of the 3 isles is the Highlands Marches, least organized of the kingdoms. It is ruled by the Highlands clans, who have elected their own High King, James Macduff. Macduff has been High King since before Elaine's rise, and it was his support which gave the young woman the legitimacy she needed to solidify Avalon into what it is today. The two are close allies. Avalon people are hearty and rough, farmers and fishermen who love the waters. While their spiritual reverence for Mother Ocean was subdued by 500 years of Vaticine influence, they still remember the Lady of the Lake, guardian of the rivers and swamps of Avalon, who promised that so long as the waters of Avalon were kept pure, the land would remain one of wonder. This promise was symbolized by a magic cup called the Grail, but the Avalons say the promise was broken when Montaigne invaded. Elaine reforged the promise when she emerged into the spotlight bearing the Grail and claiming descent from the true kings of Avalon. Elaine has been Elaine's been hard at work restoring Avalon's old ways. She has restored the King's Knight, even as she started the famous privateers of Avalon. Ingismore and the Marches, meanwhile, no longer need fear Montaigne invasion. But both nations have those who would see them independent of Avalon itself now, even if that means blood. Macduff of the Highlands dismisses these cries in the council, and the Obanon, as Jacques is called, either kills the men who complain or simply beats them until they apologize, depending on his mood. However, rumor says that the Obanon is plotting rebellion and that Macduff is plotting marriage to the beautiful Elaine. Now the Sidhe are the last thing to be remembered about Avalon. The Lady of the Lake is one of those ancient people, a powerful race that has only now returned to Avalon. They are apparently unique to Avalon, though some archaeologists suggest a connection between them and a mysterious Usuran matriarch called Matushka, and the Avalons claim them to be the oldest beings in the world. The Sidhe are split between Seelie and Unseelie, the good and wicked, though the Seelie are good perhaps only by comparison. For fear of offense, they are called only the goodly folk, and almost all of Avalon's custom come from the superstition about the Sidhe. Avalons don't steal horses, they may be shape-shifted puka, don't walk off the path in the wood, they are haunted, and they always keep a penny in their left shoe to protect against Sidhe tricks. And now, allow me for a short break. And let us move on. Castile is next. Its culture is a collection of oddities, founded by one of the oldest Old Empire's families. It is, however, not ruled by sorcerer's blood. It shared an alliance with the Crescent for centuries. It is home to the Vaticine Church. It's a rich, fertile land with good weather and a normally extremely strong economy. Its rulers are the Sandoval family, but the country is divided into rancheros, each ruled by a noble family led by a don. The King of Castile recently died, leaving his 14-year-old son on the throne. This boy has been dubbed Good King Sandoval, and he had held the nation together for 2 years, a surprisingly long time given what his detractors expected. The church is a powerful influence here, and the king makes hardly any decision without advice from the church. Several have tried to assassinate Sandoval, but all attempts have been foiled by a mysterious masked swordsman, El Vago, the Vagabond. Castile's biggest problem, however, is Montaigne. General Montaigne is invading them and has claimed nearly a quarter of the country by force. Montaigne's advance has faltered though, since he split his army to also assault Usura. The Castellan has no idea why he did this. Castile's people tend to distrust foreigners thanks to the many invasions they have suffered. They are devout Vaticines, though some have begun to doubt the church after Montaigne's invasion. The Castilians are very practical and have taken great advantage of the church presence. They have aqueducts in all their cities, free education, and clean water. Even the poorest village has a church with medical supplies and a doctor. On average, Castilians are the best educated of all the world. The Castilians are also passionate, loving music and dancing. They are devoted to the concept of family and especially revere motherhood. The mother is the core of the family unit beloved by all. The recent invasion, however, is destroying Castile. The economy, once vibrant, is in ruins. The nobles are driven from their lands and other nations wait on the border to seize what they can. Good King Sandoval is doing his best, but it's only a matter of time before someone tries to take advantage. The next is Aizen, the proudest of nations. Its rulers has no magic in their blood and they are proud of it. As a certain central location, Aizen has always been key to politics and war. However, it lies in ruins after the War of the Cross, its economy is in shambles, its fields are destroyed, its military power is shattered. Aizen is divided into 7 Königreiches, kingdoms, each ruled by an Eisenfürst or Iron Prince. They each rule by right of their control of the Drachenzine, the metal that has made Aizen famous. It is stronger than steel and twice as light, able to armor even against modern weaponry. It is the traditional armor of the Aizen nobles, and it's the edge by which the Eisenfürst maintain their rule. Each kingdom is ruled differently, some strict, some lenient. The people of Aizen have been forged by war. While their governments are ruined, the survivors have been made strong. The people have more collective combat experience than anyone else in the world. Most armies today have an Aizen advising on tactics. They have nothing left to steal, so they sail war. Their military academies are the best in the world, and they are proud. They produce many mercenaries. Being Aizen, after all, is a good recommendation. The Aizen are renowned for their stubbornness as well. They never give up. They may lie back to recover, but they always return to fight. It's a little wonder that many of the loyal sons of Aizen have left the nation to fight abroad, given all this. Montaigne is the center of culture, art, and fashion for the world. It is a rich nation full of farms, gardens, and palaces. The peasants are poor, perhaps, but the cities are rich beyond measures. The lower class struggles to feed themselves, but the nobles, they have no limits. All government revolve around the Sun King, l'Empereur Leon Alexander. He is the unquestioned king with dozens of nobles under him, the governing dukes and many lesser nobles. The peasants are a simple people, uneducated, poor and quiet. Their sons are conscripted the military and many do not return. So the only men around these days are those too old to fight, and the farmers are looked after by these old men, their wives and their daughters. It used to be custom to hold weddings in spring, but with the war, the custom has changed to winter, when the fighting is slowest and the young men return on leave. They get married quickly and are encouraged to have children just as fast. After all, Montaigne will always need soldiers and farmers. The nobles, by contrast, rarely have many more than 2 or 3 children, if that. Primogeniture rules here after all, and younger sons are rarely well liked by their elder brothers. They have nothing for the most part and form a sort of cloud of hanger-ons in the court, lesser nobles who have no land of power. 2 sons is wise since one might die, but more than 3 is bad manners. The emperor is free of this, of course, as well as his 9 daughters. This contrast is built into everything. The peasants are hospitable and direct, but the nobles have made an art form out of half-truths, inferences, and metaphor. They can be very confusing to outsiders, as the courts are thus a barrage of quotationer and quips that bear little relation to what people actually mean. The height of rudeness is forcing someone into a direct response, especially on controversial subjects. Instead, they make light of seriousness so that no one must address it directly. It is thus the mountain breeds it many spies. The nobles adore the newfound freedom that comes with throwing off the yoke of the church, but the peasantry lie in fear of their new status as a godless nation, being by a large devout vaticines. Next time, the other three nations. Men reveal more with their bodies than with their tongues. Usura is a cold land full of legends and the woman Matushka, grandmother Winter. She wanders the snowy woods, saving respectful little children from being lost and eating rude little children in her black pot. Like Matushka, Usura is not kind, but it is fair. The Usurans are some of the most primitive people in Thea. It's commonly joked that they live 500 years in the past. They have no modern roads, their architecture is antiquated at best, and even their peasant huts are primitive compared to those of other nations. The Usurans are, however, well fed and happy despite the frozen lands they live in. Despite the ice, the land where crops and hunting and fishing here are better than anywhere else. Usura is ruled, technically, by the Gaius, elected from the peasants class, the Mushkis. Because of his low birth, he is guided by a council of merchants or boyars called the Kniaz Duma. Traditionally, the boyars rule with the Gaius as their puppet. In modern day, though, that is not the case. The current Gaius, Ilya Sladivogorod Nikolovich, is no puppet. The boyars call him Ilya Grozny, Ilya the Terrible, because he will not obey and once had a boyar who crossed him fed the men's dogs while his family watched. The people love Ilya, though he watches out for them, not the boyars, and will forge his own destiny with or without their help. Most people in Usura have dark hair and eyes, but the noble marked by Matushka have green eyes and the gift of magic. Matushka is said to have made a deal with the people as long as the Kniaz stands. Usura will support its people. An Usuran farmer who is good and kind, who look to his duties before himself, will always grow enough food to feed his family, no matter how hard the year. And just as surely, one who is not will be punished by the cold. The Usurans are closer to nature than most people. They love the land, and it loves them. And it seems to love them, for no army has ever been able to invade Usura. Katayan hordes have died of plague and starvation, and the Aizen army in 523 were found after the snows ended, frozen and dead. They have been buried by an ice storm that began in midsummer. The Usurans attributed this love to Matushka, the iron-toothed old woman of legend. They also refused the Vaticine, preferring the Usuran Orthodox Church, which follows only the teachings of the first prophet, because, they say, if he got it right, why do they need another one? Once the nation of Vendel was called Western Manavyr. The island chain's largest island was Odyswolf, now Odys. Its capital Kirk was... Yes, but the Vendel have turned away from their heritage in favor of the Vendel League. Their nation is on a chain of 9 mountainous islands. Once they had a king, but he vanished after arguing with the League over military matter a century ago, and the League has been in complete control since. The League is ruled by 9 chairs, one of each of the guilds that founded the League and one of the inheritor of the Aizen Imperator. The seats are sold at auction each year to the highest bidder. Politically, Vendel is neutral on almost all issues, save money. They have pushed their coin, the Guilder, into prominence with merchants across the world, accepted everywhere by Usura, Castile and Vodache in their continued trade war with the Vodache princes. Their land is still split, however, between the mercantile Vendel, who live in comfort and luxury, and the traditional Westermanever, who rejects this comfort. The Vendel have gone out of their way to be accessible to foreigners, renaming their ancient lands for ease of dialogue and preparing to sell practically everything. The Vendel religion, however, holds no importance of names. The soul and the name are tied together, and to lose a name is as bad as death. The Vendel endangered these ancient names and the risk loss of the ancestors, and so the Western hate them, and many Western have turned pirate, perhaps fueled by Vodache gold or by Inish gold. Though the Vodache claim not to be involved and the Oban has sworn to keep his people from such violence, the raids have now stopped and the Vendel are looking to other solutions. Violent ones. Vodache is most famous for treachery. It is a dangerous place where the powerful must watch their backs and the merchant families play dangerous savage game of diplomacy. It is the home of the ancient capital Numa, the birth of Teyan civilization, and today it is sharply divided into 7 territories by the 7 merchant princes. Much of Vodache floods, and their cities are famous for the canals, especially on the southern islands. There, the cities have damped and walled canals to allow swift travel across the island cities. And there, the merchant princes live, each controlling one of the 7 islands of Vodache. The mainland has been almost forgotten by the princes, who use it only for growing food. They far prefer the southern islands, where each can rule their own. Each of the princes control a different aspect of the economy. Wine. Crescent trade, or in one case, Sirnv artifacts. The Vodache princes are all rich and powerful, and they collect money and riches like no others. All 7 are cousins, tracing their lineage back to 7 brothers, and they all hate each other. The people of Vodache are famous for their hot tempers and passionate feelings. Duels and brawls are commonplace, but always within one's own social rank. One does not insult one's better, even if one would have a friendly fight for the same insult with one's neighbor. Of course, all this fighting is for men, and only men. Vodache is clear on that. Women, however, bear the blood of sorcery, and only women. The noble women are the Fate Witches, the Sorte Straga, who control the lines and of destiny itself. Adultery is a common pastime among the nobles. Marriage is mostly for politics and convenience, and couples seldom care about the affairs they have. Men aim for professional courtesans who are separate from all other Vodache women. Where other Vodache women do not read, the courtesans are well educated and expected to be able to converse with the nobles. Where other women dress simply, they dress vibrantly with complex and elaborate costumes. The courtesans are all the nobles are not, but the noble women bear the power of magic, and even the courtesans and noble fear their anger. The calendar is set up differently. 12 months are 12 months, all exactly 30 days, 28 in 7-day week, but the 15th and 30th are considered feasting days, while that are parts of no week at all. The year is 4 3-month seasons and a 5 or 6 day celebrations at the end of the year, the Prophet's Mass. That was very complicated for no reason at all. The seas of Teya are these: the Trade Sea around Vendel, known for shallow waters and hard to track reefs; the Frothing Sea between Avalon and Montaigne, full of sharks, sirens, and fog; La Boche de Cielo, the mouth of God, of the coast of Casil, home to whales and the immense leviathans, giant whales of vicious disposition. It is also famous for its pirates and the legendary Estelo, a sea serpent said to eat the leviathans. The fourth sea is the Forbidden Sea, southwest of Vodache, near the Crescent Empire. None are allowed there, but it is said that a miles-wide pillar of water surges to the sky there. The fifth sea is the Mirror, south of Usura. It is said to contain a creature called Vodanken, of which little is known, and sailors speak of islands that rise from the deep only to resubmerge hours later. Islands on which either entire crew have been drowned by a sudden submergence. The sixth is the Corridor of Flames, called such because as it is sailed towards Kafai, a huge labyrinth of fiery walls appear 20 feet high. They are not hot, but anything that touches them burns to a crisp instantly. There is enough space to sail between them, but it's this terribly dangerous, and it is said that that end empty in an immense whirlpool, and a vast pillar of fire roars up from its center. And then there is the legendary Seventh Sea, where the sun and moon shine together, the stars go backward, and the waters are silver. None know where it lies, but the Explorers Guild has found an ancient Serenth artifact they call the alchemical compass, which they think was used to sail the Seventh Sea. 20 years ago, dueling became a problem for the world, and many nations looked to outlaw it. Free men of different nations came together to save their favorite sport, and they created the Swordsman Guild with the agreement of their kings. The swordsmen have formalized dueling. Only a swordsman can challenge, and there are strict rules. And of course, a swordsman may never take contract on another swordsman. Likewise, there has been the formation of the Jenny's Guild, named after Jenny Malone, a woman arrested for murdering an abusive man and who successfully claimed self-defense was reasonable. She has visited madams across the world, and the courtesans are now banding together for protection. They have taken to be called Jennies as a result. Socially, chivalry is dying. The average person looks out for himself, his friends, and family, and is done. But honor is not fully lost. Some romantics still hold on to the ancient ways of honor, though they are still few. The ways of chivalry are hard, after all. A promise once given is broken only by low-born dogs. A true gentleman would die before breaking his word, and may not turn down a duel or allow the weak to be hurt. Most recently, some women have also been trying to uphold chivalry, which has been received with mixed thoughts by most of the world. Some seem they are trying to be men, but others feel that trying to be noble is worthwhile even for women, and that it is to be lauded. Theia is a little ahead of our world in the mid-17th century. They use microscopes and telescopes, for example. They are impressive architects and have named 6 known planets. The sun is Solas, and then there is Velme, Amora, Terra, where they live, Guer, Re, and Volta, all named for gods of the Old Republic. They know the size of Terra is within 1%, and they can predict eclipses. Telescopes have existed for a century, but only in 1668 was the reflecting telescope invented. Chemistry is just emerging now, and mathematicians have achieved algebra, trigonometry, and geometry along with the number 0. Probability is not well liked because of the gambling connotations, and calculus does not exist yet but should soon. Anatomy is well studied, and they understand that sick people spread disease, though not why yet. Recently, static electricity has harnessed, though not for anything useful yet, and the spectrum of light was discovered. Rifles don't exist yet, but muskets do, and the mountains have developed primitive, unreliable grenades. They are very risky. Next time, sailors and secret societies. So many women didn't know how to perfume a letter, but this lady did, and yes, he chose those 2 words very carefully. Here, have another one today because I'm bored and feel like it. Fuck, that's a lot on sailing. Sailing, despite a lack of new world, is hugely important. It's been much easier to transport around the continent by sea than to brave the mountains and rivers by land. Every nation has a navy. Avalon's sea dogs are the strongest, of course, and Usura is more of a fishing fleet, but they all have one. Protection from pirates is a lucrative business. There are 4 types of sailors, really. Merchants, which covers cargo hauling, fishing, whaling, and so on. This is the most sailors. There's also naval recruits who belong to official navies on military vessels. They patrol, hunt pirates, and do battles. Being a Navy man sucks unless you are lucky enough to have a competent captain. Then there's privateers, which include mercenaries and general rouges. Essentially, yes, pirates for hire, but also escorts and so on. Avalon Sea Dogs count as this. And then there are pirates. They answer to no one and are freer than any other man and woman in the world. They have few friends and all military vessels will try to sink them on sight, but they are not all too bad. There's gentlemen pirates, and while ruthless, the Brotherhood of the Coast is a pirate bed with honor and even democratic feelings. We'll skip on the jobs on the ship because you don't care and I don't care. If you care, you can go look it up. Sailors do have some superstitions though, they are neat. A halo around the sun of moon means it will rain or snow soon. A morning rainbow means a storm is coming. A clear night sky means a cold night with a frost. And a red sun means bad weather. Oh yeah. And you never carry that man. Ever. You wash him, dress him, and throw him into the sea where he died. If a man is lost at sea, you don't make a grave for him for 7 years in case he's alive. And you don't speak of the dead save as poor Jack or whatever his name is. Best to be respectful, for everyone's heard tall tales of ghost ships. The water is called Mother Ocean, and sailors believe they belong to her. If you fall over the side, she has claimed you, and so a sailor will never reach over to save a fallen man, for they are likely to be claimed too. If a corpse washes up on shore, she doesn't want that one anymore. Sailors also refuse to dye their clothes with anything from the sea or use sea stones as ballast, because the sea claims her own and they will think it will sink the ship. The sea, they say, also hates criminals. Not pirates, mind you, murderers, thieves, and so on land, yes, but no pirates. They are bad luck. There's also other superstitions about luck, a lot of them really. Luck's important, but we'll move on. The most famous pirates in the world are the Castilian Brotherhood of the Coast, former prisoners on the prison isle La Boca. They escaped, led by a man named Allende, who may be a Crescent or a Castilian, none can tell. Some say he's sorcerer and his crew is fanatically loyal. The Brotherhood have declared themselves a nation of free men, beholden to no king. The Western raiders haunt the north and are very dangerous thanks to their use of sorcery. The Western keep rune masters aboard their ships and are said to be able to throw lightning and call up fog banks. The Westerns give one chance to surrender, and if you don't, you fight to the last. They take no prisoners and leave only one man alive from any crew that fights them, to spread the word of the fight. And then there's the famous Crimson Roger, a single ship but terrifying. They offer no quarter and take no prisoners. They seem to be on the hunt for Synth artifacts, and some say they use Synth devices as they fight. It's even said they can sense the presence of certain things. Their leader is a man called Reis, who wields a strange scythe of unknown origin. He's got an 8,000 guilder price for his head from Avalon. Speaking of Avalon, the Sea Dogs are of course a famous pirate fleet. Officially they do not work for Avalon, but most people think that's a bold-faced lie, especially as they never harm Avalon ships or merchants. Their leader is a dashing, charismatic man named Jeremiah Berek, whose crew is loyal to the last. The most famous pirate, though, is Philip Gosse, a Montaigne navyman who befriended an unorthodox priest named Hernando Ochoa. The two led a mutiny and turned pirate. It's said he never kills unless he has to, and that crews he raids would often join him without even a shot fired. He is said to have retired from piracy to settle an island according to Ochoa's unknown beliefs. However, 2 years ago, an old man claiming to be Captain Gosse boarded a merchant ship and seized it. He treated the crew civilly and threw a party for them, leaving enough food to reach land safely. And the most feared pirates are the Corsairs of Kerendudin. They are Crescent Empire men who come out of nowhere and sack entire towns. None know how they pass the garrisons in the islands around Wadace, but they have kidnapped thousands over the past 20 years. None have been heard from again. Their leader is a huge man named Kaedredin, famous for his red beard and his devout following of the second prophet's teaching, which extends to a bloody hatred of sorcerers. He also hates alcohol. The church has offered 10,000 guilders for his death. But now, secret societies. The Explorers Society were founded in 1598 by a man named Cameron McCormick. It's been at the forefront of archaeology for 9 years now, has catalogued hundreds of artifacts, and is open about both its existence and membership. The society was founded to discourage diggers, men and women who took artifacts to sell to nobles. They are famous and well beloved by the people. Their greatest foe is the Vatican Church. The third prophet denounced the exploration of Syrian ruins, saying that it led to corruption of the soul. Some cardinals defend the explorers, but the official stance has remained that it is heresy and punishable by death if needed. The current headquarters of the society is in the Avalon city of Carleon, with regional headquarters in Montaigne, Vendel, and the Eisen city of Freiburg. Members are required to grant hospitality to each other and, if needed, sanctuary from the church. The Invisible College are very recent. For the past 1,000 years, the church has been the bastion of learning and science. However, the Inquisition founding reduced funding for research, and more recently, Cardinal Giuseppe Verdugo brought them again scientific research. He has called for all research to stop, saying that it is the time of the fourth prophet and time to prepare for the next world. Church leaders are too busy with Montaigne's rebellion from the church to care what he does. The college was formed to continue research under his nose. The scholars lack funding and resources, but have created an underground communication network to pass on data, facts, and evidence to others within the church. Most college men are ex-church researchers, after all. Verdugo has not uncovered their members, and their papers are encoded, but he hunts for them. None can say how large the college is, though, as each member know only two others, and then only by synonym. Verdugo believes they have at least 24 members. The Knightly Order of the Rose and Cross is strange as a secret society because it isn't secret. Indeed, it is surrounded by folklore and legend as a gentleman's society of justice seeking wrong writers and protectors. Most knights are fifth or sixth son of nobles and join the knights to gain a good reputation and perhaps prospect for marriage of a rich daughter or son of nobility. The order has houses throughout the continent, and they are led by Aristide de Beauvau, said to be the most beloved man in Montaigne. 5 L'Empereur bodyguards are Knights of the Rose and Cross, and so are 3 of King Sandoval. Even Queen Elaine has toyed with the idea, though rumor says her advisor, the druid Dervidon, advised against it. Joining isn't easy though. You can buy an honorary position, but that doesn't grant you the rank of knight, just benefactor. Knights must undergo 3 years of service, and they are hard years at that, serving without question. They must do quests and perform duties that only a madman would try, but if they succeed, they become fully knights. And lastly, the Kreuzritter. The Knights of the Cross, as they were once called, provided hospitals for the poor, donated food to charity, and fought valiantly in the Crusades. They were primarily Eisen, and in 1411, the Eisen Imperator had a puppet hierophant declare them heretics. They were destroyed utterly in the Battle of Thanen, but rumors of the Kreuzritter surviving in the skies to do the will of the hierophant continue to this day. Next time, more secret societies and also the church. Twisting a man's fate did have a price after all, but the pain was better than what those two had in mind. Los Vagos are the protectors of Castile. Foreign invaders control a third of the nation. The Inquisitor walks openly in the streets, and the king is a youth with no experience. But these men and women love their nation, and they will protect her people, come hell or high water. They are led by the mysterious El Vago, and they are beloved by many. They fight to defend the boy King Sandoval, to save people from the oppression of the Inquisition, and to liberate Castile's land from the invaders of Montaigne. Their work is secret and they never reveal their true identities. They are a small group, but they have sympathizers in all walks of life. They have brought hope back to Castile, and rumor has it that at least one of King Sandoval's advisors is a member of their order. The Inquisition isn't fond of them, of course, but more and more the people of Castile look up to the rooftops for the dashing figures of El Vago and his loyal followers to save them and see them through the darkness. The Rilasciare are known by many more names than that: the Freeman League, the Oppositionists, the Free Thought Society, the Guerrilla Alliance. They are anarchists, opposed to any and all forms of authority or saying that limits human freedom. They oppose church funded education, the government, monarchy, ownership of goods, money, religion, and sorcery. They are at once the most united and disjointed of societies. Their philosophy is simple at its base: no human should need to ask or want for anything. They feel it is power disparities they have that have caused all problems, and so they make sure that those in high power are made examples of. They take vengeance on bad rulers and those who abuse their positions, viewing law as a tool for the weak and simple-minded to protect themselves from independent thinkers. They know the strength comes from free thoughts, as does vero coraggio, true courage. This is the highest virtue. The Rilasciare have no headquarters, no official meetings, and no official anything really. They know each other by secret sign and modes of dress and have existed for nearly a century now. They are one of the smallest societies, but one of the loudest. Lastly, there are Sophia's daughters. They exist nominally to bring equal rights to women. In practice, however, they are also a skilled group of political manipulators. They train women as spies and agents, placing them near powerful men to guide them in the proper direction. Period. Slowly, they have been gaining strength and hope to eventually make themselves public instead of secret. When none engage in trying to manipulate the government for the world to their liking, they make effort to keep women safe from abuse, help lower class women better themselves, and enhance the standing of women. The Genis Guild has been good for them, and many of the daughters are Vodace courtesans. They are more than willing to use magic to further their aims, and are abnormally high numbers of the daughters are sorcerers. It is even rumored that they can make potions to restore youth, but their leadership denies this. Each member keeps a detailed journal, copies of which are sent to several daughter-controlled nunneries for storage in a great library. These are, together, one of the most accurate recordings of history ever. Sometimes the daughters sell some of these records, the Rilasciare. The Vatican Church believes that the world is a riddle meant for humanity to unravel, and that the closer they come to solving it, the closer they come to knowing the mind of God. They have followed a simple credo since the year 325, with 6 articles of faith that must be held true. Article 1. We believe in one true God, the Creator Almighty, maker of paradise and the world, and all the visible and invisible. They hold that there is only Theos and the one God, the creator of the universe. They cannot believe in other gods or powers, including sorcery, which they say comes from Legion, the great adversary. Sorcery is used for power. Sorcery is use of power other than that of the creator, and it is heresy punishable by death and cremation to purge the corruption. Article 2. We believe in one holy and prophetic church. Just one church, the Vatican. Only the rituals ordered by the prophets are holy, and all other churches are false. Article 3. And it is prophet who spoke the Creator's message for man and his salvation, who foretold the coming of three further prophets, who delivered himself unto his enemies, and who was martyred for us in the days of Augustine Laurent. The first prophet, the big one, the one who revealed the message of Theos. He gathered followers who achieved enlightenment for reason, and he preached acceptance of fellow men to achieve salvation. Article 4. And in the second prophet who bore a staff spoke to Creator message and delivered men from evil and was betrayed by the unfaithful and was martyred for us. The second prophet came from the Crescent Empire, led his followers to the Crescents on a pilgrimage, and made powerless all sorcerers whom he encountered. He led his followers into the desert, and there he was betrayed and murdered. Article 5. And in the third prophet who bore a sword of pure flame spoke the Creator's message, divided the righteousness from the unrighteous, and made the way clear for him who shall follow. The third prophet was a warrior, neither understanding nor tolerant of others. He was a noble who sparked a war of faith, changing the ways the entire world thought with one decisive act. Article 6. And in the fourth prophet who shall bear a balanced hourglass, who shall be announced by trumpet, and the dead shall awaken, and she shall reign in the visible and invisible world forevermore. And the fourth prophet will bring the end heralded in Armageddon, and cast the world into battle for the soul of mankind. He will bring life, and his army will be the fallen, led through death and anger and conflict into a new age of truth and glory. The church is basically set up identically to the Catholic Church. Churches are places of court, of town meetings, of worship, and of refuge and healing. Services are usually performed in Altean, read Latin, but the Eisen and Avalon have tended to translate them. There are female priests, however, not priestesses, female priests. The church is also currently arguing with itself over determinism versus free will. Some believe they have logically proven free will impossible because all effects have causes, and making a choice is an effect, and to have an explanatory causes means it can be free. Others argue that nature must be personal, and if man can choose it, is impersonal and not what the Holy Book says it is like. They also have, of course, the Inquisition. They have been, since the third prophet, meant to be sorcery hunters kept in check by the Hierophant. However, the Inquisition has gradually been granted more and more freedom, and with the disappearance of the Hierophant, they are answerable to no one until a new one is chosen. Their leader is Cardinal Esteban Verdugo, and he has been moving quickly to expand the Inquisition and fill its ranks with fanatics. They have declared war on the universities, burning books and hanging professors. Enemies are kidnapped and executed, and in the span of a decade they have come to dominate the church. The Objectionist movement, meanwhile, was founded by Matthias Lieber and held that the church has been corrupt and decadent. He felt that only Theos can intercede for men with no need for priestly arbitrators. Only Theos can perform miracles and seek soul. The proper way to live is taught by Book of the Prophets and act on that, expressing their faith through charity, hard work, and helping others with no authority overseeing it. The Objectionists have far less authority in their priesthood and no true leader. Their priests lead mass and oversee ceremonies, but their duty is to live as an example rather than a leader. It's been a century since their formation, and the anger between them and the Vatican is still strong. Avalon, as noted, is no longer Vatican. It's similar, but Queen Elaine has been granted rank equivalent to Hierophant, and they pay no more service to the church. Castile is devoutly Vatican, more than any other nation. Half of Eisen is Vatican, but the other half is Objectionist. Montaigne peasants are devout Vaticans, but their nobles have rejected the church. The church would love to excommunicate the entire nation, but only a Hierophant can do that, and he's dead, and they are deadlocked on electing a new one. Usura follows the Usuran Orthodox Church, which follows only the teachings of the first prophet. The church doesn't really care about them. The Wendel are largely Objectionists, and the Westerns follow their ancient pagan faith. The Vodaci lastly are sound Vaticans. And hey, let's go big and finish this chapter. The Cyrn ruins. The Cyrn appear to have lived across most of Theia, appearing everywhere in the world. The most famous remains are in Montaigne, where some buildings exist that have been inhabited by men for centuries but clearly were not built for them. Beneath the capital of Montaigne, Charu, is a set of tunnels that have existed since before human memory, in which metal ornamentation have been found along with a vast star map, a spherical chamber containing gemstones marking out stars, along with stones that mark only what would be empty sky. This is estimated to be right below l'Emperor's palace. The Montaigne Royal Guards have barred entry to the tunnels now. Beneath Eisen, meanwhile, are more caverns full of carvings of all sorts of figures. It's believed that they are meant as some sort of communication, and a strange harness has been found for a creature that would have had to have a 12-foot long head alone. And beneath Vodacha are a set of catacombs that might be CERN, possibly. Their mountains are clearer, containing a set of caverns that contain strange, brittle armor made of amber. If heated, it softened and could be molded. It's useless as armor, but it has become something of a noble fashion to wear synth armor for show. There's also ruins on the island, and probably others, of which very little is known. Theia is also home to monsters. Ghosts are well documented, and some Montaigne sorcerers have caught them in mirrors, though it's dangerous since ghosts can interfere with some sorcery. Ghouls, meanwhile, are strange ape beasts that eat human flesh. Kobolds, also called die Schwarzenwalden, are, well, gargoyles. They have poisonous bites. Sirens are flesh-eating merfolk who pretend to be women in danger, so they can devour foolish sailors. Zombies are zombies. The church claims that there are men who are too proud to accept death, but some scientists believe that zombies are in fact caused by a strange disease. There's also griffons, which hunt in packs but are little studied due to danger. The night terrors, which are hard to study because they attack in dreams, and the Drachen, a strange giant lizards who have not been sighted in living memory. I have nothing better to do since I lent my Xbox to my brother, so beloved, by tomorrow night, good King Sandoval will be safe within his grave. With the new chapter, Helena and O'Connell find that robbing the sinister Villanova was not as easy as they thought. The ships are sinking and all three are thrown into the waves, but Villanova is luckier than the other two. He has recovered the item he sought and been rescued by a woman who we know already. It's Clarice from the last chapter, and she's planning to kill Sandoval of Castile. But we'll have to wait to find out more. This is the Chargen chapter, so I'm skipping most of it. You get skills, advantage, and so on. Advantages can include things like having been commissioned, having a great education, knowing people, being huge, whatever. There's also backgrounds, which are plot hooks you pay points for. Say that you have a nemesis. The more dangerous, the more points you spend. Why would you do this? Well, every time your background becomes a major part of the story, you get double your background's riding XP. The background must involve conflict somehow. And Arcana, well, they are the Tarot Major Arcana, and you can have them either as a hubris or a virtue. A hubris is some major flaw in your character that the GM can trigger by paying a drama die. He has them too. This forces you to either spend a drama die or follow your hubris, and he can up the price if he wants to. A virtue lets you spend a drama die in certain circumstances to activate it for a special ability. You can have only one, either virtue or hubris, but you get points to spend for taking a hubris. Hubrises are things like hot-headed. Wherever they are that's activated, you have to either pay the GM in drama dice or lose your temper and start troubles. Virtues, by contrast, are things like passionate, which lets you activate it wherever you are making an action that directly saves the life of a loved one or friend. When you spend a drama die to activate passionate, it doubles your kept dice for the action, drastically increasing its success chances. But now we are introduced to a very special type of skill, Swordsman's Skulls. A Swordsman's Skull is a fencing style, or another weapon that the sword sometimes, which grants you special combat knacks that are pretty useful, as well as special abilities when you raise the skull knacks to certain levels. You start with the apprentice ability, get journeyman when all your knacks are at 4, and master when they are all at 5. In this book, there's one fencing style for each nation except Usura. Also, most swordsmen school come with free admission to the Swordsman Guild. Aldana is the signature fencing style of Castile. It is one of the rarest of style. One weapon, no shield or offhand weapon at all. Instead, an Aldana fencer tucks his hands behind his back and fences his opponent in profile to narrow the choice of targets. Aldana is designed for fencing swords and can be used by nothing else. It combines dancing and fighting to create an elusive, unpredictable style. The duelist counts times in his head, mentally playing the song he dances to. This lets him make unpredictable moves to the rhythm of the song, since his foe has no idea what song it is. Aldana masters are even able to work themselves into a trance that focuses them completely on the moment at hand, making them some of the most terrifying foes in the world. The weakness of an Aldana fencer is his song chorus. There and there alone, the fencer is predictable. Whenever the forest comes, he will move the same way. Someone familiar with the Aldana style can easily take advantage of that. Apprentice Aldana dancers are renowned for their speed, and they roll an additional initiative die for each mastery they are learned in Aldana. That's not too shabby. A journeyman Aldana moves in a weaving, disorienting style that increases the target to hit them by 5 straight out, which is pretty awesome. And a master Aldana fencer enters a trance when fighting, giving them bonus dice each round equal to their width, which they can add to any attack rolls or active defense rolls that round. They can't save the dice round to round, but they get them every round, so that's pretty damn awesome. Ambrogia is the signature style of Vodache in recent years. It is a very popular style there, since it teaches the fencer to fight with the sword in their left hand and a main gauche in their right, making them very hard to fight with normal training. Also, it was invented by one of the Vodache's most famous courtesans, Veronica Ambrogia. The school emphasizes the practicality of her style, and it's the winner who tells the tale of a duel. Other swordsmen sometimes mock Ambrogia fencers for learning from a courtesan, but it's an excellent style. The greatest weakness, however, is that Ambrogia relies on forcing the opponent to react to the fencer's move and tricks. If an opponent is able to ignore those tricks, the fencer is in trouble. As an apprentice, Ambrogia negates all offhand penalties for fighting with a dagger or main gauche in one hand and a sword in the other. And it gives you the left-handed advantage free when using the style. Yes, the worth points, most fencers are terrible at fighting lefties. They also learn to twist their weapons in the wounds when they hit, adding 2 to all damage rolls with fencing weapons of dagger. A journeyman Ambrogia fencer learns to step into dagger danger for the extra chance, causing anyone they deal a dramatic wound to when using this style to suffer a second dramatic wound, but at the price of taking one themselves if they choose to deal an extra damage. A master Ambrogia fencer learns the secret of the riposte, giving them a bonus to hit anyone who misses them, but if they don't attack before the end of the round, the bonus is lost. Avalon's signature fencing school is Donovan, an old-fashioned style using a buckler and small sword rather than a rapier and main gauche like most modern styles. It's a style of slashes and thrust which can confuse fencers trained to fight only against thrusts. The small sword, after all, has an edge, unlike most rapiers. The Donovan school takes advantage of that. The great weakness of Donovan is that its elaborate slashes required a moment of preparation that a clever foe can exploit to get past their defense. The apprentice Donovan fencer suffers no offhand penalty when using a buckler and gets a free raise when using that buckler. Essentially a +5 bonus to rolls. This is great for locking a foe's weapon against the shield. A journeyman Donovan fighter learns the move named Donovan's Twist. Whenever they successfully parry, as an active defense, they deal damage to their foes as they rake their weapon's blades across their foe's hand. A master Donovan fights fighters learn Edward's Thrust, a special technique that allows them to interrupt a foe's attack to immediately launch a counter-attack once a round. Eisenfaust, the signature rule style of Eisen, is unlike most others. It is practiced with a broadsword in one hand and a panzer hand on the other, an iron glove that's meant to catch swords. It's a highly defensive style despite using a heavy weapon instead of a fencing one. It waits for the foes to attack and then exploits any mistake they make. Its slow build up and patient style can infuriate foes. It dodges when the Eisenfaust master attacks, tearing them apart with the broadsword. The great flaw of Eisenfaust is its rigidity. Eisenfaust teaches over 70 moves, but they all have specific circumstances to them and rules to be followed when flowing between them. Some moves cannot be used after each other due to the awkward movement necessary. This means that against a canny foe, the Eisenfaust fencer is predictable enough to be exploited. An apprentice of Eisenfaust suffers no offhand penalties when using a panzer hand, can wield a broadsword in one hand and gets a free raise to their next attack against any foe that misses them. More if they get missed by a large amount. However, you have to use those before the end of the round and before that foe attacks you again. The journeymen learn how to grab an opponent's weapon with their panzer hand and break it. Whenever they successfully make an active parry with their panzer hand, they can spend a drama die and make a brawn roll to try and break the weapon completely. Though well-made weapons and heavier weapons are harder to break. An Eisenfaust master has learned through patience. They often hold their actions and wait for their foes to attack, and when they do, they get to roll extra damage die for each phase they held action for, up to their resolve. This can only be done once a round, and while doing it, you can only hold or actively defend with your other actions. Vendel and the Western share a fighting style, which is really more of a philosophy. Ligstra, it can be used with any heavy weapon, be it broadsword or axe, and it focuses on the will over safety. Ligstra warriors are slow but inevitable, ignoring any assault on themselves in favor of focusing their strength into one killing blow. Ligstra fighters have spawned many tales of immense warriors cutting off heads in a single blow. The flaw of Ligstra is that it is slow. Most fencers are used to starting off with testing and experimental lunges, which is just what doesn't work against Ligstra. However, there is little a Ligstra fencer can do about a foe who knows how to go for a decisive blow quickly. A Ligstra apprentice can give up actions in order to get more capped damage dice on a later attack, but if they miss, the gamble's wasted. A journeyman of Ligstra can give up actions in order to toughen themselves up and increase their dice on a wound check, making it much easier for them to handle massive blows. But again, failure wastes these actions. A Ligstra master, meanwhile, learns through power. When they hit with heavy weapons, opponents take damage on failed wound checks as if hit by a firearm that is usually taking twice as many dramatic wounds as melee weapons usually deal. Valru is the signature style of Montaigne, which uses a fencing weapon in the main hand and a main gauche in the offhand. It is a defensive style using the dagger only to parry, and famous for teasing foes into overextending themselves on attack and leaving themselves open. Valru fencers don't finish duels by taking advantage of those though, rather they draw attention to them and humiliate their foes, ending the fight only when bored. Valru is a very fast style, making this a viable strategy. Its students are fast strikers and quick movers dancing rings around slower foes. The greater flaw of the style though is arrogance. Someone who knows how to fight a Valru fencer can fake openings for their opponent to exploit, and when the Valru takes the time to mockingly draw attention to the opening, he lowered his guard, giving a canny foe time for a powerful strike. Valru apprentices suffer no offhand penalties with a main gauche or dagger, and they get a free raise when parrying with one of those weapons in the offhand. A Valru journeyman has learned how to taunt his foe into taking risks. Whenever he makes at least one raise on an attack and succeeds, his foe must, on the Next attack made on the Valru Fencer, make at least as many raises as the Fencer did. A Valru Master is one of the fastest swordsmen in the world, getting a free +1 bonus to their panache, which also raises their maximum panache by 1, letting them have superhuman panache of 6 or more with the appropriate advantage. Next time, Drama, Dice, Repartee and Sorcery. And I will use this opportunity as another break. I didn't expect this to be done so early, but it was, so why not? I don't currently have any plans to run a 7th game, but if my schedule frees up enough to do so, I would think about it. It would be IRC or on a Telenet space IO rather than on the boards though, because I feel that some stuff, especially Banter, handing out Drama Dice and the Repartee system are better done in real time. Trust and Avalon to ruin a good feast fight by pulling a blade. As we move into the next chapter, Archibald runs into a Vendel woman and an Inish man, O'Connell and Helena. They've made it to port. They have a brief scuttle, but are interrupted by the arrival of a squad of brutes. The three team up to fight them, with Helena using a strange musket prepared from Vendel. What it does, we don't know, but it's powerful. The three discover they are all seeking the dastardly Villanova and join forces. The spy, Lucia, sees this and is pleased. Now then, we get a brief sidebar on various monetary system, but look that up yourself, it's kind of boring to me. More on the system, but we have covered most of that. Except Drama Dice and Repartee. Okay, Drama Dice. Each arc you get Drama Dice equally to your lowest attribute. You may spend Drama Dice 2 first. Add a capped die to any one roll. 2. Stand up after being KO'd, however you are easy to hit in that round and you are still heavily wounded. 3. Activate a virtue or a villain's flaw, which is like a hubris except you make it happen. 4. Somatic. Any Drama Dice you spend go to the GM's pool of Drama Dice at the start of the next scene. You get Drama Dice for doing cool stuff. However, at the end of an arc, all unspent Drama Dice become XP. Personally, I would just say no they don't and be done. Encourages you to spend them and use them rather than sit on them. Now, Repartee. There are 3 types of Repartee. Charm, Intimidate and Taunt. Charm uses wits and is rolled at a target number of your target's wits times 5. Once you succeed a number of times equal to the resolve, the target likes you better or is convinced to do something or believe something. However, if you fail any of these rolls, start over. Now, there's some limits here. First, it is flat impossible to charm to get someone to do anything they are inherently opposed to, morally, ethically or otherwise. Secondly, charm is strictly temporary and short term. You are going to have to do more than roll wits and smile to change attitudes or make long term convincing. Intimidate uses resolve with a target number of your target's resolve times 5. If you win, the target loses 1 die plus another die for each raise you made from every action directed at you. If you get rid of all the target die, the action automatically fades. It lasts one scene. This might be too long in practice. I might allow villains to recover. Taunt takes panache. Some targets expect their panache. Same target except okay. For every raise you make, the target must make the same round of raises on their next action aimed at you. Of course, they get all the benefits of having done so if they succeed, so there's that. All repartee effects end when you leave physical proximity on the target. You can hit one villain with a single repartee effect. You can hit one henchman plus an additional one per raise you make to at target. You can hit an entire brute squad at once plus an additional squad per raise if there happens to be more than one squad in the area. Now skipping a whole lot of rules on ships. Sorcery. Sorcery is genetic if both your parents were full sorcerers of the same nation, so are you. If only one was or each was a half-blood, you are a half-blood sorcerer. A half-blood and a non-sorcerer don't have sorcery kits, but two full-bloods of different nations or two half-bloods of different nations produce a twice-blood sorcerer who is a half-blood in two types of magic. Yes, magical genetics. A full-blood can achieve maximum sorcery power. A half-blood can't even get past apprentice. Achieving mastery is done pretty much the same way swordsman mastery is. Each sorcery has specific necks and you get 4 of them to level 4 for journeyman and 5 of them to 5 for mastery. As a note, sorcery is incredibly expensive initial points investments to learn, especially full blood, and with very, very few expectations, none of which are in this book, must be taken at jargon. The first sorcery we are going to cover is that of Avalon, Glamour. Glamour is the power of legend harnessed to strengthen the sorcerer. It was taught to the Avalons by the Sidhe, and its power is sealed by the Graal. Without the Graal, all Glamour sorcerers would be rendered powerless. It is divided into various legends, each of which is associated with a stat. You can have one legend per set, but not two of the same set. There's only one per stat here, but they promise more in the Avalon book. At apprentice rank, all of your reputation dice, side note, you get a number of dice called reputation dice based on your fame, which can be used to make people like you, become glamour dice, which can be spent exactly like drama dice, except they can become experience and can activate Virtues of Frost. They can, however, power glamour sorcery. See, you can now use the apprentice power on your next, which costs a drama die. At Adapt, the GM's drama dice pool at the start of the session is reduced by your lowest attribute, and you can use the Adapt power, which costs a drama die. At Master, your drama dice pool is based on your highest stat, and you can use the Master's power. Ditto. The following next are in the book. The Horned Hunter, Bron. The Horned Hunter was a warrior of immense strength and stamina. He could leap great distance, hurl huge boulders, and survive blows that would cut a lesser man in two. Apprentice, add your Horned Hunter knack to your bro for one roll. This can be used in contested rolls, wand checks, or damage rolls. On Adept, add your knack to your brawn for one wound check. On Master, add your knack to your bro for one contested roll of damage rolls. Robin Goodfellow, Finesse. Robin Goodfellow was a legendary archer able to hit a target at immense range, put an arrow through a man's eye, and even split an arrow with other arrow. Jack. Jack is the trickster, the giant killer. Those he tricked usually never realized what he had done until too late, and he was nearly invincible in his own home. The Child. The person becomes younger. If middle age or elderly, he becomes spry. We are told to see the GM's guide for aging rules. If younger, there is no effect. This has no mechanical effect unless the GM enforces aging penalties, in which case they are negated. An aging horse becomes young again. The hag. The person becomes old and ugly, losing one die to all social roles, but is recognizable as himself. No other traits or skills are affected. A horse becomes hideously ugly. The noble. The person becomes beautiful or handsome, getting a bonus die to all social roles. A horse becomes very good looking for a horse. The ogre. The person becomes suddenly more intimidating, perhaps getting sharper teeth or suddenly red-lit eyes, getting -1 die to all social rolls, except for intimidation and interrogation, which gets +2 dice. A horse becomes frightening, perhaps with fire coming from its nostrils or red light in the eyes. The peasant. The person becomes blunt and unmemorable, getting +2 dice to all disguise, unobtrusive, and shadowing checks. A horse loses any distinctive characteristics it might have to identify it. Master, you may enchant a building no bigger than 4,000 square feet in size. This takes a full month and a tier of a sheet to do. Once complete, you may select 3 of the following laws that are always true in the area you have now made your home. You may have only one home at a time, but can end an enchantment at will. These powers work without fail unless some other sorcery disrupts them temporarily, and they are permanent until you will the enchantment to end. Number 1, I can die in my house. Number 2, nobody's magic but mine works in my house. Number 3, I always know where everything and everyone is in my house. Number 4, no one can enter my house without my permission. Number 5, nobody ages in my house. Number 6, the pantry in my house always had food and drink in it. Number 7, I can instantly rearrange the inside of my house within a thought. Number 8, my house cannot be harmed in any way. Number 9, the inside of my house is 20 times bigger than the outside. Number 10, no one can find the way to my house unless I let her. Why would you not take Jack? The Green Man. Resolve. Legend says the Green Man once challenged a knight to strike off his head with an axe, then picked it up and put it back on his shoulder. The knight didn't survive the Green Man's own blow. Thomas Panache. Thomas traveled to the She Court, and there he learned to sense and resist sorcery. He returned to the human world, and fought many sorcerers, gaining much fame. Note, Jack's master knack come back on when Thomas' magic cancelling accents. Next time, Vendel Vestal magic. That's gonna take a lot of space. Last one for today. I didn't again think I would finish this today. Seriously, it is a shitload of runes. This posting is huge. I already had me press gang this month. Okay. Let us see. But yes, for the Wizards of Runes, we shall come back at a later time, because we are approaching the 2 hours time frame that is predicted for those streams to last. So far, I would say so good. I pretty much prefer the non-detailed description of the rules that Morseratus has been giving us. It pretty much allows us much better to focus on what the book tries to tell us, instead of focusing too much on +2, +3 on how to build the most complicated character who will be able to destroy everything, and you know. I would also say that so far the setting of the game seems to be really pretty nice in a way of basically lying to people that they're absolutely not playing in a history reenactment type of game, which in a way could also be used as a tool of, you know, teaching people at least some basics of stuff, even though they are incredibly based on stereotypes and should be taken with a huge grains of salt to not be seen as a real history. But well, you always have to start somewhere, and one of the better ways to get people to be interested in something is to make them not involved, interested in a way, but also emotionally invested. Yes. Yes. So we are in the middle of the magic section to pick it up during the next stream. For today, I thank you and invite you for another, because we have just barely begun. That is incredibly terrifying in a long run, but at the end of it all, we will know everything that is to know about the 7th Sea. But today, bye bye.